So what we're going to do in this set of lectures, set of videos, is we're going to make a part, but we're going to use a revolved geometry. So what happens with the revolved geometry is we're going to take a cross-section, we're going to pick an axis, and we're going to spin it around that axis. This gets used a ton when we're doing any kind of rotationally symmetrical parts. In fact, back in my day, when I did a lot of optical systems, since they were all based on a centerline, a majority of the parts that I made was using this kind of rotational method. In fact, what we're going to make here is, you can see this pulley. I have a drawing of it right here that's in your textbook in chapter 1, and you can see here's our round part. We have a section, which is just basically a cutout view. So this is what our internal geometry looks like. We do have a little keyway to put together. So we're going to make this all together, and it's going to end up looking kind of like this over here. So what I'm going to do is we're just going to go right into the engineering desktop, and I'm going to make a new part. And yes, I'm going to completely ignore, this is the first time that I've run SolidWorks in the virtual machine. I'm sure that you see this all the time. We're, just stick with IPS, which is inch, pound, second. The dimensional standard ISO is fine. That is all talking about how the drawing comes out, which you will see here when you get to the that part where we're actually making drawings. So once again, SolidWorks has 3 different things: a part, an assembly, and a drawing. So we're going to go make a part. Okay, so now what we want to do is we're going to want to sketch on one of the planes, and we are going to do a revolved boss or base. Remember, the difference between a boss and a base is the base is the first thing that you do. Anything after that is a boss. So we are just going to, I can click here and it starts right off into the sketching tool, or I can go right to sketch. So we're going to go into sketch, and I'm going to start on the right plane. So if I sit there, I can right click on that, go sketch. And so now I'm sketching on the right plane. I can see my centerline axes here. Now the one thing that's a little bit different with this, because we are going to be doing revolved parts, is I want to exploit that entire idea of revolving. So I want to be able to use lines of symmetry. And to do that, we're going to put in a special kind of line. We're not just going to use a regular line. We are going to use a center line. A center line is a specific type of line that we use in the software. And when I use a center line, the software knows, well, that's going to be the center of some kind of circular part. Whether it's a revolve axis, it's the center of a bolt pattern. So they're very, very handy. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a center line straight up and down. And then I'm also going to do one here off the horizontal, because I want 2 different lines of symmetry. And then I'm just going to, oops, did not mean to do that. I'm going to hit escape. I'm going to delete this. Now notice that these lines of symmetry, they're black. So they come in black because I've got a horizontal and a vertical ground, which is exactly what I wanted. Now the blue, I can grab that point and move it back and forth because that one is unconstrained. I'm not so much concerned with where the center lines end, because they are just center lines. They are just there for construction. So size is not important. I'm just going to leave them there. I know usually I'll be hammering on you that everything's got to be fully constrained. This is one of those few cases where it really doesn't matter if they're fully constrained or not, because we are not using them. Okay, the next thing that we're going to do is now we have to draw this I-beam looking frame on the inside. So I'm going to draw 2 rectangles. I'm not really going to worry too much about size and dimension right now, because we are just going to come back and dimension them. So I've drawn my true triangles, or excuse me, my true rectangles. Now I need to have them on this line, because this is one of the center lines of my part. And in fact, I want them to be centered, because when I make it bigger, I want it to automatically stay at center. So how do I do that? Well, the book will put this cross, this X pattern, St. Andrew's cross, which you'd see on the Scotland flag, straight through here. But the way I'm going to show you is the way that I've always done it, is I am going to highlight this, and you can see the center of this has picked up. You can do the same thing over here. The center of that is picked up. And so what I can do is I can actually put the center, if I click on that and I will just click anywhere on there, you can see now I have a line. It is blue, but it is tagged to the center line. So I can take this and I can make it vertical. And so now you see that little line there is now vertical, but it is a full line. We want to make it a construction line because construction lines aren't real. They're just there to help us construct things. And so now, you can see if I grab this here, I move it back and forth, look at that. It stays on there. Now, this one I can still pull up and down. It's changing its size. I want that to stay kind of rectangular. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click there at the point of the end of my line there, and I'm making an arc. That's not going to work. So once again, I'm going to highlight here. My center has popped up again, my midpoint. I'll click there. So now I have another line. We'll make that a construction line, and I will make that horizontal. And so that is the center, and as I move that up and down, it will change in size. And if I grab the bottom line, it will do the same thing. So it's kind of, we've kind of taken things and made it kind of symmetrical about the middle. So let's do we can do the similar thing up here. I'll grab it at the center, I'll move that up. I'll grab it over here at the center. So now I have these two. Let's click them both. I'm going to make them construction lines. Construction, this one's horizontal. This one is vertical. So now that is the center of my rectangle. I will grab that point, hold Control, grab my center line, and make them coincident. So there we go. So it flies into place, and then once again, just like the other one, these dimensions are now centered around the middle. And there's a couple different ways that you can do that. That's just the way that I'm going to do it here. Okay, so now that we've got those into place, let's start creating our shaft here in the middle. So we're just going to drop two lines down, here and here, and then here to here. Of course, I just noticed that I ended up turning all of these lines into construction lines. So we're just going to go back and hit Control, hit my 4 lines, take off construction, turns them back into real lines. And then I am going to look back along that plane. So I go to the view box here and pick the arrow. That looks at right orthogonally. Okay, so I want to do the kind of the same thing here. I want these lines to be centered around that center line. So we're going to use a different constraint this time. I'm going to click this line. I'm going to click this line. I'm going to click that line. I'm holding Control as I do that. And you'll see this new one pops up. Symmetry. Well, I can make it symmetric because I have a center line there. So if I hit the symmetric relation, what it does is it goes, okay, there's a center line there. We're going to be symmetric on both sides. And as you can see, as I pull and yank those lines around, they move completely around our center line, which is why we were going to use them. So now we have all the geometry there. I think we're ready. Let's go slap in the dimensions. So this is all blue. Remember, we don't want it to be blue. We want everything to be black, which is fully constrained. So I'll put the dimension in here. Look to my drawing. That should be 1.5 inches. And then this one here is going to be 1/4 inch thick. And this bottom one is going to be 2 inches wide. Okay, so I have that all in. You'll notice that all the vertical are black, which is good, but none of the horizontal are. So we can go, and what we want to do is we're going to want to put in our diametric dimensions because it is going to be a rotational part. Now, I have the center line here, so I can do something kind of neat. So if I click on the line I'm dimensioning, click on the center line, now you can see that right there says that it's 1/4 inch, but if I drag it to the other side, notice that now it gives me a dimension to nothing here, but it says 0.49 inches. So what I've done is I said, hey, this is going to be a circular part, and I'm putting in the diametric dimension, so the dimension on the diameter. And so let's go. That first one should be an inch. That slides up. The second one, that inside rim, is going to have a diameter of 1.75. So I'm going to click here. And since I was already using the Centerline, it's smart enough to go, oh, you're putting in another diametric dimension. So I'm going to put that down, and that one was actually pretty close, 1.75. So our next one, this one here is 5 inches. Once again, since I have that Centerline already kind of pre-selected, it grabbed it. Now it kind of flipped, because now that 5 inches drove it beyond where the other line was. And you can see our lines are all crossing and stuff there, but that's okay. We'll fix that here with the next dimension. And so the last one should be 7 inches. It drags up everything, kind of fixes out just fine. And we are going to have to take care of things when we do revolve that. So we have everything here. Now let's do the revolve. So I'm done with my sketch. Everything's black the way it should be. I'm going to click End Sketch. You can see I've still got my stuff all there because it's a sketch. We'll go over to Features. We want to revolve the base now. And so axis of revolution, that is what we're going to spin it about. So I want to spin it about that axis. Selected contours, that is the material that we are spinning around. And you can see the arrows there telling us, well, I'm going to spin that way. So this is going to be spinning here to the right, and I'm going to draw it all the way around there. And so now the contours, we want to use this one. You can see the preview pops up. That's good. That means that we've closed that in. That looks fine. We're going to add that one, and then we're going to add that one. And we can see that the preview is not coming, which means that I have an error. So it can't create a thin feature. I need to, I have thin features connected. You do not want that one put together like that, because a thin feature is a special shelling thing that we'll do later in the class, but I just want to make this big pulley. And so there you go. You can see our preview. Everything works fine. Everything's ready to revolve. I'm going to hit OK. And yay, it works. Look at that nice gray part. So that is the beginning of our pulley. That's the very first thing. We've got some other surfacing commands that we're going to do to it, and we're going to do that in the next video.